All right, welcome to another episode of Untrapped, where we talk about building a life beyond business. Today, I'm joined by Depesh Mandalia, whose entrepreneurial journey started at 10 years old, washing cars so he could buy a pair of Reebok pumps. And he later took that and went on to generate over $100 million in e-commerce sales. He's often called the Facebook ad chef, the founder of SM Commerce, and the creator of the world-renowned BPM method. He built a seven-figure affiliate marketing business, lost it overnight when Google changed its algorithm, and then went on to master Facebook ads and become one of the world's leading experts. He's also the marketing mind who took a startup from 800,000 to more than 26 million in just 18 months, which caught him the eye of some VIPs at Facebook and earned him a trip to their headquarters to help them better understand their own platform. Beyond the business success, he's a father of five, a sim racer, and his story is a case study on how to build a life that aligns with your values. Depesh, welcome, my man. Great to have you.
Yeah, great to be here. Really good intro.
I appreciate it. So we'll start first and foremost. What is your general take on AI? Is the future bright for the whole world, or are we headed towards a possible Terminator situation where the computers come to life and it's us versus them?
I played this out quite a few times, scenarios, and I'm reading about AI so much from a political point of view, from a humanitarian point of view, from an entrepreneurial point of view. There's like so many different angles to take it. There isn't a scenario where I can see this play out where everything's fine. That's the bottom line. Like the way it's developing, and there are companies using it for defense systems and predicting and, taking down threats before they happen. We're going down the minority report route here, which is super scary. It's like you're guilty of the crime potentially before you've actually even done it. So there's that side of it, which AI is playing a big part. Then there's the other side, which is, what does life look like, whether it's 10 years or 100 years, when AI and robotics takes over 90% of our work? You'd kind of look at that and say, well, humanity should be happy because we don't have to work. But then you look at, where does the money come from? Then they talk about universal allowances and things like that. But then what's that based on? And they're already talking about digital IDs, and that's tied to everything you do. And it just looks, honestly, everything looks dystopian as the depths of what I've looked at. And this is not scaremongering or anything like that. It's just like it's hard to see. And the thing is, like, let's be honest, AI, like guns and knives, is not the problem. It's the humans behind it. So that's the thing that I have the most fear about the most. I think AI is absolutely brilliant. It can do so much. There's so much it's already doing for me, and it's changed the way I run my business and my personal life as well, my family life. It's contributed to every part of it since I got deep into it in 2022. What that looks like in 50 and 100 years time is just, I think for us right now, it's unimaginable. I hope that the people in charge use it in the right way and it's used to benefit us. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I agree. Maybe somebody knows. I don't know who they are, but it definitely, I would agree with you. It feels like we're at kind of an inflection point where we could really go one of two ways. And I heard this, I can't remember his name, but I heard this over years ago. He was talking about this in the context of technology. He was like, whenever technology exceeds our level of consciousness, like, we run into a real problem, because then it's so easy to do good or bad at scale because you have access to these kind of technologies, right? So yeah, it's an interesting thought. So you mentioned it obviously in your businesses, and I happen to know a little bit about, how you've used that and how it's developed over the last couple of years, but I would love to just hear you talk about that. Like, where were you 2 years ago in your business, and how have you used AI to get you to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, I was still in the world of ChatGPT, and that's kind of as far as my AI experience went, but it was quite deep. I had developed an app a few years ago using ChatGPT before all these vibe coding tools had come out. Like, I was literally speaking to ChatGPT and saying, here's the problem. And I'd take the code that is given me and copy and paste it into a development environment and going back and forth between fixes and stuff. It was very cumbersome, but it works. And we launched an app for Meta Ads. It will connect to the API and it will do lots of cool things. And then I started to realize you could actually plug it into things like Zapier automations. So I've been using Zapier for the longest time for my business. It speeds things up. You can, for example, I've got a paid community. Most of the operations is run by Zapier, and it allows me to not have to essentially hire a virtual assistant to do all menial jobs and making sure certain things are done. If someone joins, if they leave, if there's new content, all of that can be managed by Zapier. But the challenge with that is the human still has to predict all the events and scenarios and write all the little interactions. Now you plug AI into it, it can do intelligent decision making and kind of create content and do that on the fly, where you don't really need a human in the loop as such as well. So, over time, as I've started to understand AI more, I think even a few years ago, I can't remember when custom GPTs came out, which is the ability to almost create your own functions. Then I started to play around with it. I think the first one I developed was a kind of an AI chef. So we have a family of 5. We have various allergies and preferences and things like that. So often we're talking about like what to cook. It's like, all right, well, he can't have that. She can't have that. It's a lot of thinking. It's not like we can't do it. But then I figured, what if I could create a spreadsheet? We already had a spreadsheet actually of our kind of favorite meals and stuff like that. I'd just pull it up whenever the question came up, what should we eat? I gave that to the AI. I then wrote down everyone's preferences, their ages and kind of who's who, and said, whenever I ask for a dinner idea, give me 7 days of dinner ideas with alternatives if need be. And it works and it's brilliant. I've been using it for a few years. The idea, and actually now what it does, it actually tells you the ingredients that you'll need as well. So it also gives you the, the recipe and things like that. I haven't done it yet, but I could easily plug that into Instacart. So you could say, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this, push it into Instacart and it could be delivered. So like one of the things I think a lot of people don't realize with AI is it's not just AI, it's AI plus automation. If you really want to create brilliant things, it's the automation part that I think people miss out. AI is this kind of computer program, essentially, that's a lot more intelligent than your standard program. That's probably the best way to describe it. It's not human level intelligence. It has no conscience. It has no like foresight and planning, really, the way we do it. And so it's very far from being human grade intelligence, but in its own right, it is super powerful.
Yeah, I love what you said about recipes. I actually just built an AI agent to look at a recipe webpage and just give me the nuts and bolts of what I actually need. Like those pages, just might just be my opinion this week because I'm really frustrated, but I think they're probably the worst pages on the internet altogether. They're just riddled with ads and links and everything. And so I built this automation, like you said. It's like, look at this page, but just give me the grocery list. What do I need to buy to make this? And then what are the exact instructions? So I'm not like having to scroll around everywhere. Yeah, I'm super excited about the combination of AI and automations, especially as a business owner. When you think about like, man, I never have to log into that Google Sheet again to check stats. It's automatically presented to me in this way or that way, and it makes things super easy. And I know you've done a lot of that. So for context, so what are the businesses that you're running right now? You've got the paid community. You still have SM Commerce. Like, is that it, or are there other businesses you're still running?
Yeah, I mean, we're still pretty much doing the same thing we've been doing for 5 years. So on the agency side, managing clients, coaching, building. On the coaching side, we're coaching ad buyers, e-com store owners, agency owners. And then on the one-to-one consulting, it's more about fast growth. So kind of generally companies doing 1 million to 10 million that want to get faster growth, and I come in as a consultant there as well. But I'd say more recently, I've focused more on SaaS, so software as a service. And where I mentioned a few years ago, I developed this software project. And it was done through AI. It got to a point where I didn't have time for it anymore. So the way I was vibe coding years ago, it was very time consuming, very cumbersome. Got to a point of launching it. I think we had a couple of hundred customers paying $29 a month for this app, but I just didn't have time for it. So I hired a developer. Now the developer cost anywhere between 3 and 5K. We were not making 3 or 5K on the app. So I tried it for 2-3 months, trying to get this developer to take it forward. And what I found is a reminder of why I hate working with developers, because they just speak a completely different language. They work on a different timeline. And when I was working with AI and just got things done, it was like everything was so much slower and it was labored and it was just a very frustrating experience. And I basically just closed that project down. And I said, I don't have time for it. And I don't want a developer working on it, because actually the time I'm putting in working with a developer, I could just kind of code it myself, and I don't have time for either. So I actually park that. right up until all these vibe coding tools came out, like Bolt and Cursor and Lovable and all these. And that kind of got me interested. And I think it was sometime last year, I can't remember. I decided to go all in and just decide if that could be the thing that took the app forward, and it did. And it has honestly been life-changing to work with a platform that is faster than me doing it between me and ChatGPT, and so much more, I won't say pleasurable, but like more enjoyable than working with a developer.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. My brother, he's been a web developer since the 90s. I think he graduated college as a, I don't know what degree, computer science maybe, but he's been building websites and actually coding and doing all that for years. And he reached out to me either this year or last year, just said he was having a hard time finding work. But when I asked him about AI, he hadn't really been keeping up to date with any of it. And so I sent him Lovable and Manus and some of these other, I'm like, these are the reasons you're struggling to find work, because people are going this direction. So have you, so the net of all this of adding AI, what has that given you? Are you working less and just doing more outside of work, or are you finding just you have the time to pursue more of the project you haven't had time to get to? Like, how are you leveraging the freedom it's given you?
So I would say time freedom is not something I've gained, because the more I've gone into AI, the more I want to do. It's like shiny
Yeah.
objects in a
Right.
city right now. So I'd be lying if I said it's giving me back time. It probably could. If I settled and I said, look, this is just what we want to do, but there's so many ideas and so many things you can do now. It's just, we're in the gold rush phase, and I want to see how far we can take it. What it has done is cut down our team size. So I know you kind of mentioned it before, and I think in the email or something about talking about team size. Our core team, the core team in the business, is only 3 people right now, and we're doing the work that we were doing when we had 10, 15 people. How is that? Because we're leaning into AI for so much right now. I'll give you an example. I used to have a content marketer in the team, 5K a month, and she would schedule things, analyze, find ideas, write the emails, the socials, the WordPress blog. She'd do all of the content stuff. I've got AI doing all of that now. Like, I don't need a 5K a month content person. Community management, for example, I had another person managing the community pretty much full time, both free and paid communities. That's all mostly done by AI and automation, and with some human oversight. Like, if I look back at my payroll and my team count and stuff from, I guess, the pre-AI era for me, which was like pre-2022, the amount of money we've saved and the amount of, I would say, operational efficiency that we've gained is off the scale. I'm not saying people shouldn't hire humans. I'm not saying that AI should absolutely replace your human team. But when you look at efficiencies and you look at, from a business owner's point of view, not just your P&L, but also your headspace. Now, I've run a team for my own business, which was over 30 people, and the thought of scaling that just did not interest me. And that's why we actually went the other way, because my lifestyle is such that I work from home, I have a large family, got some disabilities in the family and things like that. So I can't afford to give up more time than a large growing business needed. So the problem with a growing business is, yes, you do need more people to fill roles. And the more people that come in, the more problems you have. So it's not just hiring, like the whole retention game, retaining employees in a business. I could write a whole book on that. Honestly, the trials and tribulations and the wins and the losses and the motivations you have to give in, and building personality profiles and the different personality types within a business and how people interact. And like, there is so much that goes on in terms of building a functional team. Like, it's not even, let's say, for example, at peak, our payroll was between 100 and 150K a month. It wasn't a problem because we were making a lot more than that. But the problem is, you then have a situation where you have to kind of also keep that revenue going, because if your revenue dips and you've got that payroll, you're in trouble. Now, what happens when it does dip? Who do you let go? Or do you have enough cash buffer to keep those people going? When things are going good, how do you predict what the next role is? When does that person come in? So there's loads of kind of layers when it comes to managing a team and growing it. Now, fast forward to where we are right now, the first question I ask is like, what's the AI agent that can do this job? It's
Right.
just such a different space.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And I've seen some of your AI agent, and I mean, you basically built some of your own AI agents in Zapier. I mean, I've seen the workflow
That's
you
right.
had, and you were basically doing AI agents before the AI tools had even caught up, which I was always impressed with because that was one of the things that held me back. It's like there's just so much complication, and you've talked about this before. Like, well, now and then if one of your prompts changes, well, now you got to go find all the Zaps where that prompt is included, and and obviously creates all these issues. So, super excited about where agents are. So, how do you think about that in terms of hiring now? Because a lot of people, obviously, you mentioned this earlier, like, oh, AI is going to replace all our jobs. I don't think that's true, and obviously, there's a lot of people that don't. But how do you think about that? Like, what would if you did hire somebody, how do you do that? Are you, making sure that they're familiar with AI? Are you giving them, so like, how does that work? I mean, where you're at in your business right now?
So one thing I'll preface that with is you mentioned your brother, for example, and web development. I used to have a videographer in the team a couple of years ago, maybe even a year and a half, I can't remember. And it was a time when Descript became popular, or it hit the market. And I started to use Descript for editing videos, adding B-rolls, and doing all the AI stuff, editing and things like that. I sent it to my videographer, and I was paying him maybe 1 or 2K a month, and he was just doing edits here and there and stuff like that. He was good, but I said, look, here's this tool called Descript. I'm going to give you a login. I'm going to show you how to use it. I want you to use it because it's faster and it's going to be easier for you to do stuff. And it put his back up, and it was like, I think he saw that as a threat. And I said, I'm not here to, I don't want to replace you. I really like you. I really like your work. I just prefer you to be more efficient. It means that we can get 2 or 3 times more productivity than we are right now. And although I didn't say it, on my point of view, it's like, I'm teaching you AI. You can use it with all your clients. You're going to make a lot of
Right.
money through this.
Yeah.
In the end, I fired him. And it was because of the friction, and he just did not want to learn it. He didn't want to put the time in. And I'm sure, if we look at that timeline, fast forward 2 years, had he gone down that route, we would have been still working together, because I can still offload all the video stuff to him. But in the end, I ended up getting rid of him and doing all the video myself. And then I realized I actually need him.
Right.
All the video work we're doing right now, it's so easy to do through these tools that I don't need a video specialist. I'll give you an example. I think maybe earlier this year, we had a client who was building a VSL, and it was an agency client. And I figured I could probably do the VSL scripting and building and production myself. And I just wanted to do it as a test. Usually
Mhm.
would bring in a video person, just, put it all together, and did the scripting, a mix of, I think, Manus and ChatGPT at the time. The script was pretty good. He recorded it, sent over all the raw footage, put it all into Descript, and fairly quickly, and I'd say fairly quickly being like an hour,
Right.
produced a pretty polished VSL. And is it a good value of my hour? Not generally, but for the amount I learned of how easy it is and how
Mhm.
powerful it can be, it was super valuable. And I sent it back, we ran ads to it, and it performed great. And then I looked at that and thought, like, if you're a videographer and you're not using these tools, you're going to be left behind. And the same goes for developers and designers and copywriters. And it's not to say that, even with copywriting, that AI is perfect and AI is going to replace copywriters. It's a crutch, it's a tool, it's an add-on to what you do. If you're a good copywriter right now and you use AI, will it make you a better copywriter? Maybe, maybe not. Will it make you more productive and efficient? And can you charge more, make profit, high profits? 100%. So like now, back to your question, how do I look at hiring and things like that? Like I said, I'm defaulting back to AI. Can AI do the job that I need for, whatever it is I need done? And then if not, what does that hire look like? And not necessarily do they know AI, but are they willing to learn it? Are they willing to, like, for example, Jekka in my team, she's been with us for like
Mhm.
4 or 5 years. She
Yeah.
started off as a VA, and she's learned lots of things in between. And she's getting deep into AI to the extent that she is managing a project to replace our customer service tool with a complete AI tool. And she's using AI for our community and things like that. That's the type of person I'd want in the business. Someone who sees the opportunity, learns and implements and helps me. So I don't need employees that are going to ask for what to do. I need them to come to me with ideas and say,
Yeah.
hey, here's an AI that could do this. Why don't we look at that kind of thing?
Isn't that so interesting? Yeah, that reminds me of a conversation I was just having where, for better or for worse, a lot of the AI and technology that's coming out has really leveled the playing field. I mean, it's to your point, just to use the DSL example, 5 years ago, you needed, there was video involved, there was editing, like there was a lot of skills and technology involved. And so somebody just kind of coming on the scene couldn't really compete necessarily. But now, like you just said, anybody who's a little bit good with AI and can send a script could come on and undercut these dudes selling VSLs for 5, 10, and 15K. And so now the playing field is leveled. So the question is, then what matters? And I think it's exactly what you just said. It's the other stuff. It's like, who do you trust? Who has the right attitude? Who's going to show up and be proactive? You know, these are the elements that are really going to separate who wins in the next 5 to 10 years, I think, because we're all using the same tech, right? There's nothing proprietary about your agent versus my agent.
I think it also puts people like you and me in more power because we have experience, we've had skin in the game, we understand the strategy and things like that. AI can't do that right now. So if, for example, and this is one of the things I see with client services, for example, on the one side, the client themselves can go and use these AI tools, and there's an argument to say they don't need the freelancer, they don't need the agency and things like that. But AI is not going to lead their strategy. It's not going to tell them what they don't know. If anything, it's going to gaslight them and say, hey, that's a great idea, and then put them down the wrong road. So like that's where you still need the expert to say, no, that's a terrible idea. Here's what you should be doing instead.
It's funny you say that. Yeah, somebody was telling me a story about how they were using ChatGPT because they had I think they'd yelled at their kid or they'd lost their temper on their kid and they went to ChatGPT. And the first thing ChatGPT did was reinforce that. Like, you know, hey, it sounds like you're really having a hard time. It's like making them feel good about doing the wrong thing instead of, like you said, just being like, hey, we need to do something else here. So yeah, I agree with that 100%. So you mentioned you and what, 3 other people are running all the projects you've got going right now. That's wild. That's so efficient. And let me ask you this, because obviously you've been known for media buying, and that's what I've done in my agency for a really long time. And now you've got the app that does all that. How close are you do you think we are to just a full, like AI media buyer, basically, to where you just no longer need somebody even really to understand the platforms? You just need somebody that can use an AI tool, for example.
I'll give you a recent example. So I was on a call yesterday and it was with Ibrahim, actually. He was in the group. So he was actually explaining to me that he almost lost a client because the results weren't going so well, but he wanted to leave his agency and do his own thing. And actually Ibrahim recommended using my tool and said, hey, you know, you don't know Facebook ads, but go and use this tool and whatever. I mean, he said he's quite a critical person. He used your tool and he just got it. And he didn't need to learn Facebook ads at all. He just followed the process and he was really impressed. And I went into the back end and looked at some of the ads he created. It was really good. Like the ad copy, the angles and stuff like that. That's someone who's never run Facebook ads for themselves, who's always relied on agents and freelancer, and went in, created a campaign, ad sets, and could have published, I don't know if they published or ran the ads themselves, but that was done in a matter of like under an hour. And I think we're already there where someone doesn't need to learn Facebook ads anymore. Whether you use ChatGPT or use a system like mine or whatever it is, you don't need to go and learn the course and take the video course and pay for the mentoring and things like that if you don't want to. And I think that's where I'm leaning into more with the Ad Signals app is I see a future where, take Neo, for example, in the Matrix, when he wants to learn how to fly a helicopter or whatever it is, they just kind of download a program and now he's got the knowledge. We may have that in 100 years' time, but right now you don't need a training course, you just do. And it's the difference between a scientific calculator that can do all these crazy mathematical calculations and you going to university to learn the same thing. You don't have to. Just pick up the calculator and just ask it to do what you want it to do. It's the same with AI. You don't need to learn Facebook ads, I don't think, anymore, as long as you have the right framework. So if you're using ChatGPT and you just generally ask how to run Facebook ads, I've done this on all the main platforms, it's terrible. Like, it's just very generic advice.
Right. Yes.
But with a bit of a framework around it, then it becomes very good. I've got my framework, other people have their own. If you just have some kind of walled garden where you're kind of narrowing down what the LLM, the large language model, is looking at, then it is really good. I'll give you an example. So you mentioned like Zapier and agents and things like that. A couple of years ago, I built a lead nurture agent through using Zapier and ChatGPT. And that was good until the point that Zapier got very expensive. I'm talking like $500 a month just for
Oh,
Zapier,
wow.
which is a lot of tasks and things. Just this weekend, I rebuilt that with a tool called Replit. And it does all of the lead nurturing, data collection, and things like that. And the cool thing about that is the lead nurture itself plugs into my ad strategies, plugs into my offers for my business. And when it's doing its lead nurturing and the assessment, it can recommend the right product to you. And it can also answer questions about it as well. And I was on Slack, I think it was yesterday. And somebody in my team said, wow, this is amazing. Like the responses are spot on. So again, like if I didn't give it the documents and frameworks, then if someone had asked a question, it'd be quite generic, but it's very specific and it's very to the point, to the extent that it will answer things and remember things that even we will forget. So if you or I are on a phone call and there's a client and they're asking a specific question, we have to remember that thing. AI can do it faster and more efficiently.
That's interesting. So you built it in Replit. Is it like a web app, or how did you structure
Web
it?
app.
Like,
Yeah.
so somebody comes into your ecosystem and then it just triggers this web app that then goes in and either responds
So
or, whatever you've got built into it, right?
So what we've done is we've built a kind of standard type form style questionnaire and also an AI style kind of assessment. So it probably should be launched today or tomorrow, and I can show you the link so you can have a look at it. But the idea is to use that as our front end for lead gen, for inquiries and things like that. And then they go through the process, and the promise at the end is you'll get a personalized ad strategy. So you go and do the assessment. At the end, it says, hey, if you want it, it gives your email address. So by that point, you've gone through the whole process. You're like, all right, I'll
Right.
give you my email address. Not only does it email you a link for the strategy, but it will send you to a web link, which is personalized for you and unique for you as well. It has your own personalized strategy there. And that's where we do the selling. And it also has an expiry as well. So like the 3 hour before the page disappears, and people can copy and paste what they want. But the idea is based on your particular circumstances, it will pull from my ad strategies, BPM method, and things like that, and pull in what it needs to onto that web page, and then tell you what you need. And then obviously the call to action is, well, we can do it for you kind of thing, or you can, join the coaching program or
Right.
whatever it is. So it's kind of doing it in a way that's using all of my assets, and it's completely unique to my business and who I am. Then once it's got your email, then it can do its nurturing on the background. So it will know, for example, if you've clicked onto the link and you've loaded the page. And I've built all of that intelligence in. So it's building all the click data and the analytics in the background. Then if you do click the page and you don't book the call, then there's a trigger and it will do emails and things like that. So that, the cost, by the way, it cost me, I think now it's up to about $80 of Replit AI development time.
Right.
That didn't cost me much. It didn't cost me anything in Zapier to build, but to run it was $500 a month.
Yeah.
With Replit, I built it for $80, and then the server costs are nominal. So it doesn't actually cost me that much a month to run it. And for me, I feel like every time I have a problem I need to solve like this, I'm not going to go high level or ClickFunnels or Active Campaign or anything like that anymore. I'm going to one of these vibe coding tools and saying, what can I do? How can I fix it?
Yeah. That's brilliant. So that's basically your front end now. So you've got like a survey or a form that people are filling out. And then based on that, and then in the background, you built all the logic of like, if they click the page, but don't do anything, do this. If they click this thing, then do this. Like you've told it basically like, this is how it should be handled.
So I didn't actually do that. So here's the thing. I've been using Lovable for the longest time, and Lovable's been great. Replit goes above and beyond. So Replit has this kind of, they call it Agent 3 or something like that. It has a kind of tool which queries itself, and you can see its thought process as it's kind of doing it. It's like when I give it a brief and we go into planning mode, and I might say to it, okay, we need an admin backend. Tell me what I need in the admin backend. Like I don't know. I'm leaning into it. And it says, well, you should have this, you should have this. Our admin backend is pretty awesome. If you've ever used Pipedrive or any kind of like layered system, it's built that in for the sales flow. So I can see marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, see the the value of the deal. We can close, we can win. Like it's built all of that into the back end. So there are things that I would probably ask for and see if it can do. There's other things that I say, what else should I have as part of this lead nurturing and CRM system? And it will go off and tell me what I need. And then it will go on and develop it as well. So a lot of the things it's put in, I didn't ask for, I didn't think to ask for.
I love that. And I just want to highlight something you were talking about to kind of what sets us apart in the AI age is the difference between you building that and let's just say maybe 100 people off the street is you still have a sense when Replit comes back with something of what right looks like. And that's where I think people kind of get lost in like, oh, AI is going to replace everybody. Or it's like, well, you can't just jump into ChatGPT and be like, build me a lead nurture sequence, because you won't know unless you know when it comes back with an answer like, okay, yeah, that looks good, or no, that's completely off and missed the mark, right? And so
that's right.
Yeah, it's very much, you mentioned the strategy piece and all of that, I think is going to be a huge differentiator. But yeah, I've got to check Replit out. I've been on Lovable. It's okay. I had definitely heard, you're not the first person to tell me that Replit is kind of got a leg up on it right now. So I'll have to check that out. So you also you sim race, right? Are you still sim racing? So do you, with all the shiny objects and the projects and things like that, are you getting to do that as much as you like? I mean, I guess something as entrepreneurs, we obviously all struggle with, especially in the beginning when things are hard. Like it's very easy to just work all the time. And I think you had a season where you went through that as well, just like literally working and doing nothing else. How did you get to a point where you were able to give yourself permission to do other things, permission to walk away from the computer in the middle of the day and not have that sense of like, I really need to be doing something? Like, how did you get to that point?
That is a really good question, because I think it is a permission thing. And I think people overlook the fact that no one's asking you to pin yourself to the desk all day long. And no one's going to push guilt on you if you're looking after yourself. One of the things that I struggled with when I started the agency business in 2017 was looking after myself. So we grew our revenues to 10, 20K a month, for example. We didn't pay ourselves as business owners, myself and my wife, for 6 months. And the reason was we were growing the team and we wanted to keep investing in growth. So the team, it's like, as we start to get more clients, it was like, okay, we need more team members, we'd hire them, but we didn't really account for our own salaries. So we were kind of dipping into savings heavily. And it got to a point also where I was working 12 to 14 hours. By the end of the day, you're so exhausted, you're eating the chocolate and the ice cream just to keep you going. If I look back at some of my pictures back then, I was a lot chubbier. Might not be noticeable or whatever, but I know it is a fact. My waistline was bigger, my energy was lower, wasn't sleeping well, and things like that. And then in 2018, I think I started to look into health a lot more, because I didn't like where I was. Yes, money started to come in and we started to grow the business, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't comfortable waking up and feeling lethargic and just struggling through the day and needing coffee and all that kind of stuff. So I started to invest a lot more in my health, looking at supplements, more exercise, better eating, healthier eating, all those kind of things. And I felt better for it. But even then, I still felt mentally fatigued. And the more I kind of looked at it, it was like there were two dominating things in my day, which was work and family. And that's all it was. And it kind of... that continued for some time, and I didn't really know what downtime was. I have a passion for football, which is soccer for you guys. So I'd sit there and watch it sometimes, but even then it was just like, I used to play it a lot. I didn't really put time into playing it. I couldn't find anything for myself. Now, it wasn't until 21, when we made the move from UK to Canada, my brother-in-law, as a kind of moving gift, gave us a PS5 for the kids, PlayStation 5. And my son would play games and stuff like that, and we were just sitting there for a while. Growing up, I gamed a lot. Becoming an adult, I didn't game. It's just one of the things, unfortunately, you just don't end up getting the time for. But then I think it was Gran Turismo 7 came out, and I first played it, Gran Turismo 1 or 2 in the 90s, and never played it since. I love racing, I love cars and things like that. So I thought, all right, I'm going to buy it. And I bought it together with a steering wheel. And I thought, this is so much fun. And the steering wheel became a cockpit, and then that became all these other investments. And initially I was playing a lot of Formula One racing, Gran Turismo. And I just like when you're in that kind of environment and you're in the virtual cockpit and you're racing, for that moment in time, you're not a father, you're not a business owner, you're not worrying about clients, not worrying about your team, your cash flow, anything like that. You're just immersed in that one thing at that moment in time for an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is. And I felt refreshed after that. So then I started to kind of build that more into my routine. Now, at the same time, I was working with a mentor. Her name is Kat Howell. I think you probably know who she is.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I was speaking to her about this, and she was kind of talking about, how to help me become more productive and more energetic and things. And she said, what you're doing is allowing yourself to mentally recharge. And you need to give yourself permission to do that. Because what ends up happening is she uses a kind of traffic light system, green, amber, and red light for how your mental state is. You need to recognize when you're in that red light phase. You need to get quickly back into amber and fast into green. You need to know what's going to help you get there. So sometimes it could just be leaving the desk and going for a walk, getting some sunshine, calling someone, going, whatever it is. For me, at the end of the day, because my day is so busy with the 5 kids and business and things like that,
Man.
for me, it was like 8, 9 o'clock, logging in for an hour or 2 hours and just racing. And for that moment in time, I'm nobody except myself. And I'm that kid again. I'm that kid that used to love computer games and stuff like that. And as I started to spend more time with it, I actually became really good. And I was competitive and one of the top racers in Canada and things like that. And now I'm reliving a passion that I had as a kid, which was, racing cars and stuff like that. But it's also consciously tied into my day, that I know that, for example, a few days ago, it was really a tense day. There was so much going on. And I knew that if I could just get that time in that cockpit, and it was only for an hour in the end, it's like a de-stress. It's just a grounding opportunity to just get back to a green light status as well.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really good to hear you say all this, because these are all lessons that, for better or for worse, I've learned the hard way as well through my entrepreneurial journey, and really still figuring them out. And I love what you mentioned about rest, because my mentor really put this to me recently. He was like, the reason you could be getting enough sleep and eating well and all that and still not feel great at the end of the day is like, because at the end of the day, you're still not refilling your tank. You're not doing anything to recharge, like you said. So like you've mentally output all day for work and family and whatever, and you're getting plenty of rest, but you're never actually putting back into yourself. And I love what you said about just going for a walk. Sometimes that's enough of a break to just get outside, get some fresh air, get away from the computer. But okay, I did that on Monday. I was like, I just have to get out of the house. I just had dinner with a friend and came home, and I was like, I feel like a completely different person. That's so good. Was it, in terms of the permission aspect of it, was Cat part of helping you with that, or did you kind of figure this out on your own of like, oh, I actually really enjoy this, sort of accidentally figuring out like the video games, it feels really good for me to just take that break for a few hours.
I think I'd started to figure it out. And I think
Yeah.
having a mentor involved just helped to clarify and almost give me permission there. Because the thing is, the entrepreneurial journey is not only very lonely, but you're learning so much on your own. And sometimes
Right.
you don't know if what you're doing is actually the right thing to be doing and whether there are alternatives and stuff. So I think at the time, having that feedback to say, hey, it's okay, and it's actually good what you're doing, that made a big difference, because there was still that guilt there of, that hour I'm on the racing, maybe I could be doing something else. Maybe I could
Right.
be just checking in the business. Maybe I could be just checking on the wife, and maybe I need to be around the family and things like that. But it's like, you do need to still be your own person and not lose sense of who you are as well.
Yeah. And I love what you mentioned early on about like your clients are not going to guilt you for taking care of yourself. And most of the time they're not going to guilt, like they don't expect you to be at the desk at noon on Wednesday. Like they're not sitting there. But I guess unconsciously had that belief, because especially when we started splitting our time in Costa Rica, it's like, oh, do we go to the beach in the morning? I'm like, well, I don't know if I can, but eventually I realized, my clients don't care if I'm there Friday, because all that, like, they're also not going to care that if I'm there Friday at midnight catching up, or Saturday morning catching up. Like, nobody cares as long as the work gets done in delivering. Like, you can have the flexibility, but for the longest time, maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't know. I just had in my mind, like, these are work hours, these are non-work hours. And I kind of artificially boxed myself into this system that just wasn't really working for me.
Absolutely.
And is that, obviously I'm only, I only have the US culture to really speak of, but like, do you find a similar, you've lived in the UK and now in Canada, is there a similar kind of 9 to 5 attitude with the people you meet and entrepreneurs? Like, is that kind of a Western thing that we've adopted as far as like, this is when I work?
I think it is. Yeah, absolutely. And I think like UK and Canada, so Canada is a mix of US and UK culturally and,
Right.
everything else. So it's right in between. So it is. And I think one of the reasons I started the entrepreneurial journey in 2017 was to spend more time with the family, because I was
Mhm.
working a 9 to 5, which was really a kind of 9 to 9 plus weekends because it was so
Yeah.
hectic. And I didn't enjoy it. And I did contracting, I did employee and freelance and all those kind of things. And I just found that I didn't have the opportunity to own my own time. And I probably
Yeah.
didn't figure that out until probably around 2018 as the agency started to settle. And I remember the transformation in 2019. In fact, end of 2018, I got invited out to Bangkok to do a talk. And from that point forward, up until July of 2019, so that's about 8 or 9 months, I was traveling every single month, either speaking at an event or hosting an event. And I did it with the team not needing me, with the business not needing me, and the clients not needing me. Everything was just ticking over because we'd built a pretty good operation. That's the first time that I realized I can get my own time back now. That I'm not working in the business, I'm working on the business. I went to Vegas in Jan 2019, came back with like 10K worth of new business just because I spoke on stage and a few people came up, and
Right.
some people booked right then, some wanted to speak later. So I was still helping the business, but I wasn't sitting there analyzing ad accounts and having team meetings and stuff like that. I was doing different kind of lead gen and building my network and things like that. And I think that was refreshing because I realized I could plan my time and my day around what I want to do, not like I was doing in 2017, literally just stuck
Right.
to the laptop, looking at ads, planning, writing copy, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I love that. So with where you are now, I guess we're getting close to the end of 2025. Like, what are you aiming at by the end of 2026? Like, what's your 12-month goal? I mean, what projects and milestones are you trying to achieve with the things you're working on?
For me, I'm keen to see how far I can push the software. Like, I would love to get the SaaS to a point where it's the bulk of the revenue. And like my long-term goal would be, I'd love to get it to a sellable position where a bigger company comes in and says, hey, we'd love to integrate your app into what we do. For example, I spoke to someone that works at ClickFunnels and I said, hey, wouldn't it be great if on your ClickFunnels platform, it was deeply integrated with something that actually could get you traffic and run your ads and analyze performance and tell you what to do? Like, for me, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
Now, could they go and develop it themselves? Sure. But having a system with, thousands or tens of thousands of users already in it, fully functional, fully operational, all that kind of stuff, just ready-made and ready to go, that's got some value in it. So I think that's an interesting thing for me to explore. One of my regrets is back in 2020, we had quite a few inquiries of people looking to buy our ads agency. And the reason it fell down is majority of our team were freelancers. We didn't have so many employees or people on payroll and stuff like that, or permanent payroll. It's just because that's the way we developed it and it was easy to grow that way. But the value wasn't there for the buyer. So we had offers, but it was nowhere near motivating for us. And it was
Right.
because that 30 plus team, they were not 30 plus people 100% focused on our business. So that was a regret, because I think had we had the foresight a few years before, we could have got a really decent 7-figure payout for the agency at the time. It had the value, the client, the book value, and all that kind of stuff. Now, fast forward to now, I'd love to get to the position where we're building something with AI. It's literally a zero developer app, but it's built, it's operational, and someone can easily take it over when it has high value for someone.
Yeah, I think for any of the, I mean, I just would imagine any of the funnel builders, that makes a ton of sense. And then to the point you made about them being able to build it on their own, I mean, sure they could, but then it also doesn't have the BPM method in your frameworks and all the
Exactly.
stuff that's just been battle tested over millions and millions and millions of dollars of ad spend. So Yeah, that'd be really cool. I'm rooting for you. So, what about suggestions for people? Let's just say somebody's a coach, some sort of a thought leader, info product entrepreneur, guru, and they're in this space, and maybe they're obviously they're seeing all the news about AI and all the upcomings, and maybe they're using ChatGPT, but they haven't quite adopted. Like, what would be the first three things that you think are kind of no brainers for them to build into their business, whether it's this automation or that agent, or where would you advise them to go is to sort of get on the waves of updating their business with everything we have now?
The obvious start place is ChatGPT, and a lot of people don't understand how to speak to ChatGPT. Just ask it questions. Like, you don't have to be a prompt engineer and get all complex and things like that. Just have natural conversations with the AI and ask it whatever your problem is that you're trying to solve. So, for example, my lead gen agent that I built on Zapier started as a conversation with ChatGPT. I want to do this thing. Tell me how. That's all it was. And what I ended up building was quite complex because I have the layers to ask deeper questions, just like, a coach or a consultant would know for their own business. Bring those layers in and say, okay, I want to do this. Tell me how. Like, that's the first start point. Then start to layer in the complexity and the logic and things like that. So that would be my start place. The next place I would then look at is, what are the apps that I can plug and play into my business right now that can help me with whatever I'm doing. One of the tools, for example, that I find quite powerful, that we've had for a few years now, is having an AI that attends meetings and transcribes. So we use an app called Read.ai. There are many others. Now, the cool thing about Read is it plugs into Slack. So we get Slack summaries and things like that, and we can one-click send summaries straight to the client's Slack channel as well. But it also integrates with Zapier. So we, for example, have a flow where after every meeting that Read has been part of, it will go to a Zapier flow and it will create social media and email content based on that call. Doesn't matter what the call is. It's been taught to think about how that could be turned into a social post. That ultimately gets posted to Asana. And we have probably about 50 or 60 social post ideas and things pre-written in Asana. I don't use it all the time, but it's there. If I want to tap into it, I'm like, oh, I need an idea for this. It's already preloaded. So then I can go in and publish it and things like that. So starting off with apps that can help you. We've talked about Descript, for example,
Right.
Opus Pro, for example. Whenever I create a YouTube video and publish it onto YouTube, I have a process which then pulls it into Opus Pro, and it's an integrated tool into Opus, where it automatically create clips for it. Once those clips are created, I have my assistant that will go in and schedule it in Opus, and it just gets published out. So I think the first stage is just get used to ChatGPT. Second stage is starting to kind of look at off-the-shelf tools. The third, I would say, is going back to ChatGPT and starting to explore what roles it can fulfill for your business. So giving another example, we've had no end of nightmare with bookkeepers and accountants in Canada. In the UK, because we're UK born and bred, we understand all the tax and everything there. When we came to Canada, it was a learning experience, and there's multiple layers. And what we actually found was bookkeepers and accountants would assume we know, and we'd assume they know, and we missed out on tax breaks and things like that. Now, AI is my tax consultant, and I can drop CSV files in there, data files. I can copy and paste P&L sheets, things like that. And I can query it, and I can say, I want you to act as a tax consultant in Canada or whatever it is. And it will give me really valuable advice, which otherwise I'd have to go to an accountant and trust that they know really what I want. AI in the background is collecting information about you. So the more you ask, the more it's understanding who you are, and it will come back and give you ideas that maybe you didn't think of as well.
So smart. There's so many applications. The bookkeeping one is one I'm glad you reminded me of that. I need to jump on that. I've had that conversation a couple of months ago with ChatGPT. Like, could you do my books? Like, is there a chance you can integrate with QuickBooks? And it was like, not exactly, but exactly what you said. If you upload a sheet, then I can categorize and do all that stuff for you. I think that's so.
And by the way, I'll give you a bonus one. No, not everyone will be comfortable doing this, but a few weeks ago, I had my blood work done. And at least in Canada, they upload it to a digital portal. So I don't understand it. I copied and pasted it. In fact, I saved the web page as a PDF, put it into ChatGPT. And I said, just give me the summary, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it came back and it said, these are the three main concerns. And the funny thing is, I had a call from the doctor's office saying, oh, the doctor would like to book a call with you to go through your bloods. I'm like, all right, fine. And I remember the call came in and Shalina sitting next to me. I put it on mute. I said, these are the three things that she's going to talk about. She's going to suggest that I take this medication and whatever. And exactly as ChatGPT had told me. And that's exactly what she said. And I was just sitting there smiling because like, I didn't need her advice. Like, now she called up to show concern and give some advice, and that's awesome. And, doctors are great. But I didn't need that feedback just because, chat. And the cool thing is, because I've had multiple health conversations with ChatGPT, talked about the supplements and my routines and my goals, when it took the blood work, it used all of that in context. The doctor doesn't necessarily ask those questions or have the context. So for me, that's more valuable.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned earlier with us on a sales call. Like if you want the problem that person mentioned early in a call to be relevant, you have to remember it. And so same thing for your doctor. They'd have to remember that, oh yeah, 12 months ago, you tried this new diet, but they can't, and the AI can. So yeah, I want to upload the blood work thing because I did that as well. But my motivation was just that physicians, most of the time when I have conversations with you about this kind of getting within the range, but I gave it to AI and I said, I want to optimize. What is the best I can do here? I don't just want to be good. How do I maximize all these inner markers and how they play together and all that? And it's like, that's a completely different conversation. Again, to your point that AI is perfectly, okay, great. Well, these are all good. If you want to improve sleep or energy or whatever, it's like, here's some supplements and things you can consider. And so it gives you that power back over those things for sure. I love that as a suggestion. So that's perfect. Well, we're getting close to the top of the hour. And of course, I want to respect your time. This has been great. I have one more question, and I just want you to tell people where they can find you and if they want to get connected with you, where you would have them go next. But obviously, as entrepreneurs, we always talk about freedom. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur so they can have more time freedom and money freedom and all that, which is, kind of funny in its own for reasons we talked about on this call. But I'm just curious, what does freedom mean to you with where you are now in your entrepreneurial journey?
I would say, looking back, it's just been choice. So the choice between, do I fly economy and business? Do I book that cheap hotel? Do I go for something more expensive? Do I take this client on? Do I not? Do I take this speaking engagement? Do I not? Like, for example, and it's something I've earned, I believe, which is, for example, if someone says, hey, would you like to speak at the event? The first thing I look at is it in a country or a city that I'm interested in visiting? So, for example, if someone said, hey, we want you to come and speak in London, I spent my whole life there. I don't have any interest in going back. So if that would be less motivating, then like someone said recently, there's an event in Croatia. Would you like to come and speak there? I'm like, that is amazing. I've always wanted to go to Croatia. Yeah, I'm in. And it was like, what it will cost and stuff like that. I said, look, just cover my flights, accommodation. I'm happy to come and speak in Croatia because it's on my hit list. And that's enabled me to visit so many amazing places around the world. And, that if I was a 9-to-5 employee would not be an option. If I hadn't earned the time freedom and the reputation and my brand, it wouldn't be an option. So I think that the freedom for me is choice, and it's the choice between, like, for example, before this call, I had to take my son to the dentist and we spent an hour and a half there. If I was stuck to my business, if I was a 9-to-5, I wouldn't be able to do that. And as small as it is, and I think you'll appreciate this, even though it's a dental appointment, we drove there together, we chatted, he's talking about whatever 11-year-olds talk about. We sat there, he had his hot coffee, hot chocolate after the dental appointment. And for me, that's still bonding time. Right. And again, that's the choice that you can have as an entrepreneur as well.
I love that. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Well, this has been great, Depesh. I appreciate you very much. Where should people go if they want to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing or get involved? How do they enter your Replit app?
Yeah, I mean, my Facebook profile, my Facebook page is generally where I keep things updated. So my profile is more personal things and some business, and then my business page as well. Otherwise, bpmmethod.com is where stuff is.
Perfect. Awesome, Depesh. Well, once again, man, I appreciate you coming on. This has been great.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
You bet.